You are listening to the Just Skimming the Surface podcast with Wes Skymmilk Skym. Just Skimming the Surface is a podcast that focuses on the stories, interests, and passions of people. Taking inspiration from late-night talk shows, guests are interviewed on their experiences, providing the opportunity to reflect and grow. Behind every person's life is a journey to be learned from. No matter how deep we may go, there is always a way to look deeper, which is why we're only just skimming the surface.
Hello and welcome to the Just Skimming the Surface podcast. This is our fourth live show with ISU's Freestage. Very excited to be here for the final chapter of Just Skimming the Surface. So this is our first digital live show. The last few live shows were in person, had a pretty decent sized crowd on average between the three, and we can actually see audience interaction as it was happening and know what was working and what wasn't. So now if I make a joke and it doesn't land, I don't have to worry about not feeling good about it. So I'm very excited about that.
I'll try not to blow any speakers with my laugh. Just be aware that if I laugh, just to turn down your volume a little bit.
Oh yeah. We'll put a noise warning in the description. But yeah, here we are, finally live. A little bit of technical difficulties because I'm a boomer who doesn't know how to use Zoom. But we're ready to start. So Ben, I believe you said you were going to prepare an opening clip or something.
Yeah. Well, this is the final chapter, and this podcast, the live podcasts have really meant a lot to me. And working with Wes has really been great. So I really wanted to make a really nice tribute for Wes. So Ryan, go ahead and roll the footage.
I don't know what to say. I thought we were going to you were going to tell me about footage. You didn't send me anything. You didn't text me.
It should be an Outlook. I sent it to you and I shared it. Come on, Ryan. Don't stop playing games. Just come on, roll the footage.
I wouldn't play games. It's just Skimming the Surface 4, Ben. I wouldn't play games. But you didn't send me. I just thought as the stage hand
we can
of
see you moving.
Yeah, Ben,
you're not really frozen. You're moving in between freezing.
What a moving video intro that was for Wes. Oh.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you very much for your time and effort on this show. We really appreciate it. Anyway, I apologize in advance if I start to lose any sort of energy. I did get Moderna in my arm again today for the second time. So thank you, Dolly Parton, for your contribution to my safety. So thank you so much for that. And I'm very excited to hopefully feel a bit safer in the future. As an essential worker, this whole pandemic, it's a little bit of comfort knowing that I don't know that there's at least some sort of vaccine out there and something that kind of giving me hope that things are going to go back normal soon now that everyone's going to be able to get that. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, right now I am currently working after graduating last year as the assistant general manager at Domino's, and I am acting GM this week and for the next 4 weeks because the general manager is on maternity leave. So it's really amazing the places that a theater degree can take you. I'm joking, of course. There's been a lot going on, and so I'm back here at ISU in grad school, and I'm still learning quite a bit of things that I didn't get a chance to do in my undergrad. So I'm very grateful to be here again, and I'm very excited to see what else I can learn and where else that takes me. And I'm very excited to be able to work with Ryan and Ben again, since they are also still here. And honestly, we might be graduating at the same time now, so that's pretty fun. Ben, did you have any opening remarks? As this is your third show as co-host. Very exciting.
Yeah. What a time it's been since the last couple. No, I'm just really I'm still theater education. Not much. I guess technically this is my first time hosting Just Skymming The Surface live as Ben Patton. That's definitely
true.
That's the change. That's the change. Nothing else to report here.
Nothing else to report. Our monologues are going a bit long right now. We were supposed to have Kee-Yoon Nahm on in a second here, and he is actually waiting in our waiting room. So Ben, since you know more about how to use Zoom than me, I'm going to go ahead and let you invite Kee-Yoon to the stage.
Come on in, Kee-Yoon. Grant
I
Brown.
really thought this was going to be more like iCarly, but it's really just a depressing version of iCarly. Kee-Yoon is here. He's got his camera on now. There he is.
I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be kind of hanging out backstage until I was or just feeling it out.
No,
Hey,
we saw you peeking out from behind the curtain.
That was me.
Welcome, Kee-Yoon. We're so excited to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we were going to have Kee-Yoon on for Just Skymming The Surface Live 4 that was supposed to happen last school year. But unfortunately, due to the panorama, we could not do the show. And so we wanted to reach out to Kee-Yoon again because we really wanted to hear from him and kind of learn some things from his expertise.
So persistent.
We were
I also can't believe it was last year, right? It feels like a million years ago.
Yeah, right.
And I'm seeing, I think, Ben and Ryan for the first time this school year. It feels like, am I right? Or have
I also haven't seen you.
So, yeah.
It feels like I also haven't seen you since like my freshman year, and so it was like 2 years ago now.
Yeah. It's good to see everyone.
Yeah, definitely very good. Just Skimming the Surface was on like a whole hold for the whole year. I did like one episode during the pandemic. Thought I was going to do more, but it's just taken a lot out of me. So I was wondering, from an educator's point of view, how has and especially in a university, how has that kind of affected your work?
Yeah, it's been wild. I mean, so I'm sure that as students, you have been getting a million emails, right, over the summer, and even last spring, right, when the campus closed. But the faculty have also been inundated with emails, and a lot of helpful emails like, "Hey, we know that you're suddenly making the transition to online teaching for the first time. Here are a bunch of resources for you." They've been both useful and overwhelming, just like pivoting right to something that you weren't planning. And then so I am like at home with my like Zoom set up for online teaching, and I feel like when I wake up in the morning, I make some coffee and I sit down in this chair, I don't get up until it's time to go to sleep some days. Just like work and life, it's all blended together. And I think that's the hardest thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So you would say that it just feels like a lot more work right now, like you're at work constantly?
Yeah, I need to remind myself to just like step away from the computer, because even if I'm taking a break, I'm just like surfing the internet, and I'm still in front of a screen, and I need to remind myself I need to do something different so that I'm not like in the same position all the time.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, I think it would be helpful now to kind of introduce yourself and what you do to our guests who are not quite familiar with you. I know most of our guests are ISU students or SOTD students, but we may get some other people, and it's really about your experience. So tell us more about what you do and how you got to doing it.
So I'm Kee-Yoon Nahm. I teach in the School of Theater and Dance at Illinois State University. I teach theater studies courses, but my specialty and kind of like my training is in dramaturgy. So I teach dramaturgy classes, but I also mentor student dramaturgs who are interested in that as a career path. So how I got into dramaturgy is
Sorry, I haven't. Sorry.
I think it's an interesting story because a lot of people, they may have heard the word dramaturgy before, but until you like actually work on a production with a dramaturg, it's not very clear what dramaturgs do. And that was definitely my experience. When I was an English major when I was in college in Korea, and that's how I took Shakespeare classes in an English department, took like modern drama courses, and that's how I gradually became more and more interested in theater and decided that I wanted to study it in grad school. But I had a friend who did a study abroad in Canada for a year. So he was away for a whole year, and then he came back, and he was all pumped to start like this new arts festival at our university. And he wanted to do some theater productions as a part of that. And he came to me and said, like, "Hey, I'm doing this production. I would like for you to be the dramaturg." And I was like, "Oh yeah, definitely. What's a dramaturg?" And that was how I got introduced to dramaturgy, by just doing it for the first time. And I feel like for a lot of the students who are working as dramaturgs at ISU right now, that's kind of their experience. They've heard of it. It sounds intriguing, but until you do it, you don't quite know what it is.
Yeah, definitely. So could you explain more about what a dramaturg might do on a production?
It really depends on the production. And I think the kind of connecting thread for me, like it's two things. First of all, it's being a supporter of an artistic vision that a director might have, or if you're working on a new play that the playwright might have. I think for at least the way that I approach dramaturgy, it's less about my creative impulses and my need to express myself, and more how can I help other people express themselves more clearly or get the message that they want across. So that's the first important component of dramaturgy for me. And the other is kind of being that outside eye, because when you're working on something and you're immersed in the process, it's hard to get perspective, right? Kind of imagine what this is going to look like to an audience member who hasn't been in on all of those meetings and conversations, who like don't know the play inside out. So I try to put myself in the position of that new audience member who is seeing this for the first time. What might they miss? What might go over their head? What might confuse them? And try to flag that so that we can address those things in the production process.
Yeah, definitely. I took Kee-Yoon's dramaturgy class last semester, and I learned a lot of helpful information that I think is definitely really helpful to me as a theater educator. And we talked a lot in the class about how a dramaturg kind of has to basically have a general idea of every single part of a production. And we talk about that in theater ed as well, with how theater educators have to know a bit of every single part of a production. So could you tell me, are there any parts of a theater production that you feel that you don't know enough about, that you are still trying to learn more about?
Definitely the more technical side of any area of theater, like whether it's acting, whether it's directing, whether it's like production and design. I feel like I understand the large ideas, right, or the way that a designer might approach a play, or the way that an actor might approach a play. But as far as like the actual like training and the actual techniques that are involved, I feel like I have less of an understanding of that. And yeah, the more that I know, definitely the more helpful it is, because I can speak that person's lingo, right, and bring things up and contextualize things in ways that are helpful to their process.
Awesome. And don't forget, those of you listening or watching on Facebook Live, leave a comment and let us know if there's a question that we haven't asked that you'd like to be asked, or anything, or a comment for Kee-Yoon or whatever. We'll be keeping an eye on the comments for the live stream throughout the show. So just be sure to interact with us there. Ryan's watching the comments as we go along. And I saw Ben had a hand.
Yeah.
Yes, Ben.
I was just kind of imagining Kee-Yoon's response to like, what do you not feel like as confident in, is like to be like, I just imagine Kee-Yoon as like this all-knowing like person, just based on like my experience in fundies. It just seemed like you just had like so much knowledge over everything, and it just like was like mind blowing to me that you had all of that knowledge. And I was just like, that's crazy, because I don't feel like I have nearly that much knowledge packed into my brain. So it's like I feel like I got like a tumbleweed flowing around in my brain. So I just was imagining you to know everything.
Well, part of it is, I mean, I prepared for that class. So obviously the things that I'm talking about in the class, you know, like those are things that I know what I'm talking about. If you just like bring up a random question, I might not have an answer right there. But also, you know, when I talk about the specific techniques that are involved in like acting or, you know, design or direction or whatever it is, I think that there is a difference between knowledge and kind of like embodied like experience and practice. And so I can talk about acting, but I don't have a lot of experience acting myself, right? So there's a limit to how much I understand what it feels like, right, to be an actor and be involved in the process.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think it's really nice to just know that no matter where you are in your professional career, learning is still very important. And we learned in dramaturgy that dramaturgy, I keep saying the wrong G pronunciation.
You want to go the German route, that's
in dramaturgy, we learned about how important it is to get out there and experience other types of media and art to really help you come up with visions or know exactly what you want out of a production as a dramaturg. Could you tell us where you kind of find some of your inspiration for pieces you've worked on?
Yeah, so interestingly, I've found myself involved in a lot of projects where I am the dramaturg, but the work that we're doing isn't quite theater. I'm working with a group of musicians on a piece that they want to develop based on their own stories, and they need somebody to kind of like help create a story structure. And as musicians, it's not something that they're used to. So I'm involved in that. I've been working on a dance piece with the National Dance Company of Korea for the past year. And these are very different from kind of like what you would consider traditional dramaturgy, because you don't start with a text, right? There's not a play that I can pick apart and research and bring in information. It's kind of building something from the ground up out of conversations. And I can only rely on my experience of like music or dance, right, in those cases, right? And then, of course, you know, there are ways for me to bring in the kind of training and the kind of like ideas that I have that's more related to traditional dramaturgy, but it has to start from, you know, like me kind of like relying on my experiences of those art forms. And so that's what it is, right? You know, like it's the dance pieces that I've been to, it's the music that I've listened to, if it's visual art, it's the visual art that I've looked at. It's hard to kind of quantify exactly how that's going to be useful, but I believe that deep down, like all art is connected, and there is a way for artists to kind of speak past the disciplinary boundaries that they have in a university, right? The departmental boundaries that we have, and actually collaborate and communicate just as artists with one another.
Awesome. So I think now would be a good time to check in with Ryan. Have we gotten any questions or comments for Kee-Yoon?
We have one, including Ann Hago's in the chat, who says Kee-Yoon has a DFA, Dr. Effing Awesome. I don't think we're allowed to swear on the Josh Play It Safe. And then we have a question from Mickey, who asks, Kee-Yoon, what was the hardest show that you've ever been assigned for dramaturgy?
Hardest show that I've been assigned? That's I don't know. That's a hard question. I think that the one of the pieces that I told you about that I'm working on currently, the work with musicians, that we've been working for about 2 years now, and you know, because it's a devised piece, it's a new piece. We're constantly evolving and responding to new things. It was supposed to premiere last year, but it was canceled because of the pandemic. We were trying to do it this spring, but it got pushed to next year. So we're still working on it, and it's like pursuing this moving target, right? Like we have an idea of where we started, but the destination is still kind of like uncharted territory for us, because we still have time, and our thinking will continue to evolve, and new ideas will come in. And as the person who is tasked with kind of like sorting all of that and finding a kind of order and structure to it, it does feel like you're juggling, and then you're just like adding more and more balls that you're juggling in the air at the same time. So I think the longer the process is, I think it comes with challenges, but also rewards, right? I feel like the work that we're making is becoming a kind of like journal, right? A document of everything that we've experienced and gone through this past few years.
Awesome. Cool. Any other questions?
Yeah. Cheyenne wants to know, what's your favorite memory since joining ISU?
Favorite memories? Oh man, there's so many good memories, but also so many of them feel so distant because of this year, right? With everything being online. I think, since this is in the context of Freestage, I do think from time to time to a device piece that Asa Wallace directed and kind of conceived a couple of years ago. It was called Studio of the South, and it was based on the letters that Vincent van Gogh and his brother exchanged to one another when Van Gogh was kind of like out of the country, but also later kind of committed to an asylum. And going back to what I said earlier about how like deep down artists can communicate one another beyond their disciplines, Asa was really interested in that idea. So he talked to a student in the School of Music, talked to a student in the School of Art, got a dancing major and some actors involved, and they all kind of did their thing on stage at the same time as the actors were also kind of exploring these letters. And it was kind of like watching a jazz performance, except that everyone's instrument was a completely different form of art. And so there was a School of Art student who drew who painted a new painting on each of the two nights, kind of responding to the text, but also the music that was being played and the movement. And those paintings are hanging in my office wall, which I haven't been to in forever. But anyway, they're there, and it's just great to have a physical object that captures those memories. I remember it was like past midnight, and Asa and I were standing outside of Centennial West right after like a long and grueling run through, and just had a hug because we both were happy and excited, right, with the work that was coming together. Yeah, that's a memory that I think that night I was I had to teach that next day, and I was going home, but I was so happy that I was here at ISU. And I hope that we can have many more moments like that once we get back to in person.
Yes, there'll be many years more.
Yeah.
Many. Let's take one last question, and then I think we have to, for time's sake, move on. So one more question from the Facebook.
Sounds good. Our last question comes from James, and he asks, are you pro pickle or anti pickle?
I am very pro pickle, but I will say I actually grew up in the U.S. I went to elementary school in the U.S. and then went back to Korea from middle school all the way to college, and then came back to the U.S. for grad school. And in Korea, it's very hard to find pickles that aren't sweet. So you typically get like a little plastic container of pickles as a side dish when you order pizza. And I remember the first time that I had pizza in Korea after living in the U.S. and eating this little sliver of pickle, and why is this sweet? That's not right. And then just trying to find pickles that aren't sweet, and it's just not something that you can find easily in Korea. So one of the things that I did when I came back to the U.S. for grad school is buy pickles, and so I am very pro pickle.
That's amazing that you could take such a nonsensical question and actually come up with a really good.
I was expecting more questions like that, actually. This is much more serious than what I thought it was going to be.
Those were the only questions he wanted. So moving on to our next little thing we wanted to do, we wanted to take a look. So I'm not sure if you're aware that this exists, but there's a page on Facebook called the Kee-Yoon Nahm fan page. You probably have seen it, but I don't know if you remember.
I am not a member. Can I actually, if we have time, just say something? So the student did, who will remain unnamed, did like let me know that there is a page. And I actually already knew because Facebook actually recommended this page to me. And I was thinking, come on, Facebook, you can be better than this. This makes no sense.
Facebook is great at keeping secrets.
So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Well,
I pretend that I don't know that the page exists, but I do know. Facebook has told me.
Okay.
I guess that makes sense.
It does. I mean, not only does Facebook share our information with anonymous sources, that they're going to share groups about us to people. So Ben has a couple posts that he shared with me that we wanted to show you, just so you can get a little glimpse into what posts are kind of made in this page. We asked for suggestions. No one sent us any. So we're hoping that these ones are okay to share. They're nothing outlandish or bad, so don't worry about that. All
right.
So I will share my screen real quick. Right there. Start broadcast. Sorry, I'm on my iPad, so I have to narrate everything I'm doing. All right, here's our first post here from Terrence Mayfield. Peeps, I just saw Kee-Yoon in person and he's effing real and I cannot handle it. That is all.
I remember when I ran into Terrence just walking around on campus.
Here's another one. Seeing Kee-Yoon in the all-school meeting today was one of the greatest blessings of my summer. Hope everyone has a great first day of classes tomorrow. And this was last semester that was posted. So it was all the online stuff. Next post. Kee-Yoon just personally reached out to me to make sure that I'm doing okay. Is this what it's like to have a teacher actually care about you? Very nice. And disgruntled and upset that this gem has not been shared here. Make it a Snapchat sticker. It's really fun. I don't know the story behind that picture, but I do remember seeing it.
I choose not to share it. I think the picture just speaks for itself. That's at a Home Depot, and it's theater related. Is all I will say.
Well, that's great. So we just wanted to show you that here at ISU, you are very appreciated and very loved. So thank you so much for all the work you put in. We truly, truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I feel like, like with the sense of disconnect that everyone is struggling with, including me, that's just, it's good to kind of like see, that kind of response. So thank you so much.
So we've got a little game that I kind of told you about. I'm hoping you still have time for this. Mm-hmm. I know you're technically supposed to be in rehearsal right now.
Oh, and I'm the dramaturg. Nobody knows that I'm gone. That's the dramaturgy joke.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So we had a special alumni guest that we decided it might be easier since you shared you're a little not well versed in improv. We have an alumni guest that we'd like to bring on to help you through this presentation that you totally planned for us today.
Okay.
So go ahead and let in our guest. So those of you who have seen the live show before, from our very first live show, you may recognize Grant Brown, who was my very first co-host for the live show. There he is.
Hello, sorry, you caught me in the middle of reading.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
you're keeping up with your reading during the pandemic?
Yeah, I'm keeping up with Renc. Yeah, he's great. Wonderful guy.
Hi, Grant. I'm so relieved that you're here, by the way.
Hi, how are you doing?
Thank you so much to both of you for presenting your research here on Just Skimming the Surface Live 4. We're so happy, and you sent us this PowerPoint ahead of time on this historic event. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up.
Real quick.
We're going to set some ground rules here for the presentation. Just let us know when you'd like us to skip slides. It is your PowerPoint after all, so we can move on whenever you'd like. I'll be behind the controls, so I can just tap away to the next screen when you need it. If you really need, Ben is also well-versed on this topic. I heard he took a class on it. So you can always reach out and phone a friend. He's right here for you. He can help you if you forgot your notes. I know I don't see either of you have note cards, so you must be really well prepared for this presentation.
As prepared as I can be, Wes.
Have I forgotten anything, Ben?
No. I'm just really excited to hear what I'm ready for this presentation.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen so that we have our little presentation here. And looks like today you're presenting on the Italian Spaghetti Famine.
Yes, we are. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Yes, thank you so much. That's us. I'm Grant Brown, and across from me is my illustrious presenter, Kee-Yoon Nahm. We are here to go ahead and present on the Spaghetti Famine.
Yeah, it's a very serious topic. It's just like so sobering to even think about this period in Italian history.
Yeah, dark times, very dark times. Happy most of the times you're able to get through it. Whenever you're ready, we'd love to go on to the next slide. All right, so we start our journey in North Dakota. What's really interesting about this is that when they specify the Italian spaghetti famine, it's specific to Little Italy in North Dakota.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, we don't have time to go into the whole history of immigration from Italy to North Dakota specifically. And I mean straight to North Dakota, not through New York or any of the harbors, just like people flying directly from Italy to Grand Forks, I believe, is the kind of hub for the Italian American community in North Dakota, which you can see on the right-hand edge of the map there.
Yeah, it was amazing. They landed on Grand Forks because, they thought spaghetti, oh, you eat it with a fork. Like, oh, what's better than a grand fork? It's the best fork you can possibly have to go ahead and do spaghetti
but the irony of a town being named Grand Forks during the Italian Spaghetti Famine, when they had all of these forks, but no spaghetti to use it.
Yeah, exactly. It was truly an ironic situation that most people did not find humorous at the time. But if we'd like to go on to the next slide, we'd love to go and continue talking about
this. We should move on, definitely.
Absolutely. I see what you're saying. Okay, Kee-Yoon, if you'd like to go on and take this one for me.
Yeah, so you'll notice that the image on the left is in black and white, which indicates that it is a historical photo that helps us situate like what time period that we're looking at. So we're really thinking about the 1950s, maybe the early 60s, but I think once we get into that period of history, there are other things that that kind of like dominate the scene. So on the left, we have perhaps one of the last remaining the image of one of the last remaining containers of prepackaged spaghetti that was out there, and you can just see just how happy this person is, this anonymous person who apparently is a chef. So like this is somebody who cooks for a living but hasn't been able to for such a long time because there's no spaghetti, right? And to be able to find something like this, it's kind of like digging up gold, right? To be able to find a box of unopened spaghetti.
Yeah, it was truly a rare circumstance, especially for those times. I mean, this also predated the meatball crisis that happened 15, 20 years after that. So with having just in their hands a package of spaghetti, not knowing just what they had left with the meatballs as well is truly has every right to be happy. And then when you see on the right, you have a picture of two people. I'm not sure who they are really, but clearly they're one of them is very sad and one of them has a giant mustache. And I believe what the root cause is that this person is very sad that there is no more spaghetti. And this person on the right was hired to try and make more spaghetti. He was a person who was trying to go ahead and correct the spaghetti famine. I believe his name was Jordan Gamsey. Jordan Gamsey was his name.
one clarification, even though the pictures on the right are in color and seem to be of higher fidelity, these are photos from the period. There were color photographs in the 50s and early 60s. So just want to be clear about that.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you very much. I can't believe I forgot that. So anyway, on to the next slide, please. Let's see here. You see, as we were saying before, the meatball crisis.
Meatball crisis, man.
I know, it was dark times, Harry, dark times, and it was truly an astonishment when people started to think to themselves, what can we do to go ahead and solve this problem? That's when the book Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs came out. That's when the book started to happen. It's like, wait a minute, what if we kind of engineered this, tried to go ahead and make food fall from the sky? Truly, it was an art piece about trying to revitalize hope during the time.
Right, and if you look at the image on the left, the thing that I really want you to pay attention to there are some of those diagrams, those kind of like cross-section diagrams of eyeballs. Now, this is kind of grim, so it might not be for all audiences, but people were clamoring for meatballs so much that any round object about like roughly the size of a meatball, whether it's a golf ball or it's a ping pong ball, people start to see those as meatballs. You know what myopia means, right? It means people starting to see other people's eyeballs as meatballs.
Yeah.
That's what it led to. It was a documented medical condition at the time.
Yeah, for quite some time, it ravaged parts of Grand Forks and kind of spread, out into different parts of North Dakota. It took a very long time for people to go ahead and readjust themselves and realize that, maybe, just maybe, we can do things to solve the lack of meatballs as opposed to eating other people's eyes. That's also where the phrase "an eye for an eye gets the whole world blind." That's also where that phrase comes from.
And a testament to art, right? The art is what helps people kind of like move past these depressing times and imagine a hopeful future when meatballs are raining from the sky.
Absolutely, absolutely. Please, the next slide. Oh, the Boyardee family. We owe so much to the Boyardee family. We got Mama, Papa, and of course, Baby Boyardee. Baby Boyardee really was the one who instigated the plan to try and get this meatball crisis back on point. Kee-Yoon, if you could go into detail about that plan, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, just as the historian here, I think I also want to definitely reiterate, like when you see black and white photos, that means that these are photos of the period, right? That's where the authenticity comes from
right.
The black and whiteness, right, of these photographs. Now, the image in the middle, again, people might wonder, is this more contemporary? Is this of the period? There were color photographs and also very early, very rudimentary 3D rendering technology that was starting to be developed at the time. So I want to assure everyone that we are looking at actual historical archival material from the period. Yeah, 100%. I just feel like that's important to point out.
Absolutely, yes. It can't be understated. Just because with the amount of effort that wasn't going into cooking pasta, other people of Grand Forks had enough time to develop other things such as software technology, engineering, and they came up with these amazing pieces of technology to really show the pain and anguish that they went through. I mean, if you look at Papa Boyardee on the left, I mean, you can just see the solemnness in his eyes, and Mama Boyardee on the right is doing her best to hold it together, but obviously, I mean, she's cracking beneath the eyes. But Baby Boyardee, they conceived Baby Boyardee to go ahead and try and help out with the system, and he later on grew up to go ahead and reinvent the way that spaghetti was made in Grand Forks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's move on to the next slide. I think that we're going to get to the really important part here. Right.
Yeah.
So much to unpack here. I don't know if just within the confines of this presentation, we can go through everything here. I don't know, Grant, where should we start? I feel like maybe we can just pick out just a few key pieces of information for our audience.
Yeah, I think we should start definitely with the picture in the lower left-hand corner of what looks to be like three bears with empty bowls. Obviously, this represents the people of Grand Forks and not having enough spaghetti to go around.
Yeah, all of those bowls are empty, as you can see. The smallest bowl there is overturned. And
Yeah.
that's a symbol not only for the absolute lack of spaghetti and meatballs in their lives, but also the signs of revolution, right? Signs of a popular uprising kind of fomenting in that upturned bowl that you see there.
Yes, exactly. That's where the image in the upper left-hand corner comes into play. That's when they realized that there was a correlation between empty bowls and somebody stealing the pasta. But what happened is that as people were being served their bowls of pasta, someone, while their backs would turn, would come around, grab all the noodles and run away. And they found out that that was linked to a spaghetti monster that was residing in South Dakota, just across the border. It turns out all the South Dakotans were hoarding the spaghetti altogether.
Right. I mean, that's the kind of the history of North and South Dakota, right? It is like one long history of, like battle after battle over if it's not spaghetti, it's something else. It's ravioli, right? It's always something that that separates North and South Dakota. In the cycle of history there.
Absolutely. They just been, I mean, the Great Spaghetti Wars have been documented for a long time. It's just only now that we're really realizing the depth of which they were fought.
I mean, who knows? We might see a unified Dakota within our lifetime, but it's a hope, right? It's not a reality yet, but it's a hope that maybe someday North and South Dakota can put aside their conflict when it comes to Italian food and be one Dakota again.
But that day hopefully will be in the not too distant future. Let's go ahead and move on to our next slide. Yep, the end. We don't know. We don't know if it's the end. It may happen tomorrow. It may happen in 10 years. We don't know. So
the really important thing about learning history is that it's not just all things that happened in the past and we've moved past from, right? The question mark at the end there suggests that, is this ongoing, right? Are we gearing up for another spaghetti famine or some other Italian food related crisis? I mean, there are some people who trace the beginnings of COVID back to, right, the spaghetti famine. And are like, it's tragic that we haven't yet learned the lessons, right, that history can provide us, and we're going through these same cycles again. So we need to study history, right, because that's where the key to our future lies. Whether North and South Dakota can be reunified, whether we can ever find the spaghetti monster again, all of those things, we can find those answers in history. I think that's the big takeaway that I want people to think about.
Absolutely, I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much, Kee-Yoon, for taking the time.
I couldn't have done this without you. This has really been such a wonderful collaboration, and I really look forward to the book project that we're working on for the authoritative history, right, of the spaghetti famine.
Thank you. I can't wait either. We're just announcing that here, actually, that we do have a book coming out, a periodical as well. So please be on the lookout for that. It's going to be everywhere on Audible. We just haven't found the person to voice it yet, but we'll be getting to that shortly. But thank you so much for everyone's time. We look forward to talking to you guys next week as we discuss the great linguine longing of New Jersey. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Wow.
That's like some of the best improv I've ever seen.
Truly
the
incredible.
next great comedy duo.
I gotta say, Kee-Yoon, you were like, you kind of psyched us out. I think you hustled us because you're like, oh, I'm not very good at improv, and then you killed it. You killed it.
You're amazing. That was great.
I didn't know it was going to be a lecture. Like now, like, oh, okay, now I get I'll let you all in the secret. I'm often winging it when I'm lecturing. I have a lot of practice there.
Oh man, that's great.
That's good to know. That's good to know for myself that I can be winging it in the future as a teacher.
So I look forward to taking Kee-Yoon's improv class next spring.
I only wish I could perform with the grace of Kee-Yoon Nahm. I swear to goodness, that was wonderful. As the Italians would say, mwah.
Bravissima.
Yeah, I'm sad that I never had you in class, Brent, but this is even better.
Yeah, this is this is wonderful. We can finally talk about our love for spaghetti unabided by any scholastic walls. This is great. Wonderful.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for that presentation. Grant will be joining us again after the music break, but this is the end for Kee-Yoon Nahm on the show right now.
Thank you all so much for inviting me. This was a lot of fun, and I think a much needed kind of like respite from the like isolation and just being like by yourself all the time. So yeah, this is great.
Thank you, Kee-Yoon. Have fun at rehearsal.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. So we're going to go ahead. We had the music break planned for now. And I have a clip from the Acafellaz, who, like all the other a cappella groups here on campus, found ways to still rehearse during COVID quarantining and finding the safety protocols, following all those, making sure we're all getting tested, wearing masks and all that. We have a concert coming up this weekend, and I was very excited for that. So we got a clip from a rehearsal that we did in person in Bloomington underneath a bridge. I don't know if any of you have been there, but there's like a mural down there. It's very nice.
Did you feel like it might be like a view from underneath the bridge?
I don't want to compare it to the themes of that play. That is not a good idea.
Then Patton, everybody.
Thank you.
Just mute and turn off your cameras. We're going to go ahead and share that little performance here, and then we'll be back with Grant Brown as our guest.
Walk down that lonesome road, all by yourself. Don't turn your head back over your shoulder, and only stop to rest yourself when the silver moon is shining high above the trees. If I had stopped to listen once or twice, if I had closed my mouth and opened my eyes, if I had cooled my head and warmed my heart, I'd not be on this road tonight. Carry on, never mind feeling sorry for yourself. It doesn't save you from your troubled mind. Walk down that lonesome road, all by yourself. Don't turn your head back over your shoulder, and only stop to rest yourself when the silver moon is shining above the trees.
So my favorite part of that video is when those runners just like, I was like, I'm not editing that out. That was just too funny. So Acafellaz has a concert this Saturday. They will be streaming it live to their Facebook page. So be sure to check that out. 7 p.m. Central Time, of course. And we had a lot of fun putting together our little tiny desk concert for this weekend. So be sure to check that out. And thank you so much for allowing me to use that video despite the ending there. So welcome back. We are here again with Grant Brown. Welcome back to the show, Grant.
Hi. Thank you very much, Wes. Thank you so much for having me.
Let me tell you, I missed you so much.
Dude, I missed you too.
Yeah.
I've been stuck with this kid.
Yeah, this new co-host is not it. Not it
Yeah.
at all.
I've been thinking about that for ages. Actually, like, really fun fact. I thought, and this is just for a very quick hint. When I still had the means, I thought about possibly coming down. I think it was either for the second or the third, just skimming the surface, and surprising you guys, and in the middle of performance, just busting down the doors to wherever you were, and be like, "Okay, so you replace me. Okay, so what's that about?"
I would have let you
Talk
be like,
about
oh,
this?
I was just keeping your spot warm. I would have been like, hey,
Yeah.
there's an open seat in the audience. So
Sure. Yeah.
Who let the intern here to the stage?
I feel like before we continue, we have to introduce Ryan to Grant, because Grant graduated, then Ryan showed up. So Ryan,
Yeah, Ryan's our new Grant. Is
Oh,
working.
no. How's it going, Ryan? It's me, old Grant. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm new Grant. Very nice to see you.
Wow, the newer model looks wonderful. It looks great.
Oh, you
A
too.
lot of great quality updates.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to be seeing you again. It's been a long time, and I wanted to check in and see what you've been up to since you graduated from here at ISU.
Yeah, man. It's great to see you too. I've missed talking to you and seeing you around. Yeah, I'm doing well. Since graduating ISU, I graduated on May 12th, and I immediately moved to the city on May 13th. So I had zero time at all in terms of like layover. And I just started auditioning, hitting the ground running, doing everything that I could to try and just get into the theater scene here. And it was going decently well before everything happened. But it was
showed up.
yeah, until that terrible COVID hit. But I've been doing really well. Things have been great. A lot of my time with COVID has just been like just going to work, exercising, reading, or reading it, and just trying to stay sharp until everything kind of comes back to normal with theater.
Definitely. I saw that you were in a production almost immediately after graduating here. It was the one that I got that picture for the presentation for. Could you tell us more about what that production was?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a production of Moby Dick. It was an original original script by a great group out in Seattle. And Chicago Music Theater Festival was hosting auditions, and they were part of the entire festival. So it was a lot of fun. That cast was incredible. We're still extremely close to this day. I was just hanging out with some of the guys from the cast yesterday. It was a lot of fun to be able to go ahead and just get involved with the scene out here.
Yeah, could you tell us more about that show? How did
Yeah,
it
went well.
I've never read the book, so I don't know much
Yeah.
about Moby Dick. I only know references in modern media. So
Yeah, it went really well. It was very interesting. A big thing that I found really interesting is that back when I was in high school, I was in a different musical about Moby Dick. And I know it was weird. The one in high school was kind of like really goofy and like strange, because it's a thing about Moby Dick, like how are you going to keep your audience engaged for that long if you're not going to make it at least somewhat like entertaining? So I played the same part that I did in high school for my first role professionally. It was, so that this one was like very serious. So like in the one in high school I played Father Mapple, who was a preacher that everybody in the Pequot goes to see before they set sail on the sea. And in high school, he was just like really big, like exuberant, like high energy preacher. And then in this production, he was this old curmudgeon that was just like, listen to God. If you don't listen to God, you're gonna die. And it turns out, yes, everyone died. So they didn't listen. But it was a lot of fun. The production went great. It ran just, I think, about like 3 weeks before things closed down for COVID.
Mm-hmm. So was that the only production you were in before the pandemic hit, or?
Yeah, I was. That was really the only like main stage one that I was in. I was in a couple of other readings and a couple of other like very, very small stuff that happened. A lot of it happened more post-pandemic. Like a friend of mine who was in Moby Dick with me wrote a script at the University of Chicago. And the script was about Emily Dickinson after her death and what her family did to divvy up the poems. Like, okay, what are we going to do? Are we going to publish them? Are we going to keep them a secret? We're going to go ahead and we're going to distribute them. What are we going to do? And I got to be a part of that process in another brand new original script, which was so much fun to go and be a part of.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know kind of more about, I mean, since you graduated and you have your degree in acting from ISU, what are some things that you learned here that you took into your experience in the real world?
Yeah. Well, some of the things that I learned were that don't ever stop collaborating or wanting to collaborate. The biggest thing that I think I gained from ISU is the spirit of being able to go ahead and have an open forum and say, hey, I think this works. I don't think this works. Try this, try that, bouncing ideas off of each other. But as you kind of progress through the years, you can get scared of saying like, oh, I don't know if I fully agree with that. Or maybe I don't know if I want to go ahead and do this, but maybe I do want to go ahead and do this. And you kind of get scared to kind of collaborate in that way. Can get really easy, especially when you're, talking to professors or you're talking to other students who maybe, are in other productions and you don't want to do anything like that. But keeping that spirit and knowing that, oh, I'm like being an artist and being a theater performer is to be a collaborator, is to go ahead and create the best production you can possible to fit not only the director's mindset, but to fit what would communicate best to the audience. So it's all about trying to make sure the puzzles fit, and you're not going to the pieces fit to the puzzle fit, and you're not going to be able to make them fit if you just keep on trying to force the same puzzle piece in over and over and over again. So you have to be willing to go ahead and be on your toes. And that's something that ISU really helped me out with a lot.
Definitely. Awesome.
Yeah.
Ryan, were there any comments or questions that happened that I missed?
We got a lot of Grant love in the chat from James, Sammy, and Nikki, and Jimmy. A lot of people were loving the presentation. Gillian saying, "Why is this better than any group project I've ever sat through?" And Sammy wondering if she should be worried about being roommates with Mama Boyardee.
You should absolutely be worried about being roommates with Mama Boyardee. I mean, like I said before, the pain behind her eyes is there. It's a thing of where they're like, I'm afraid that when Mama Boyardee finally comes to the realization that the spaghetti famine is in full force and that it's not just like something that the news is printing, she will cry marinara. And I don't want that. I don't want her to cry marinara.
I don't know if Grant knows Kelly. So.
I don't know Kelly. Kelly, if you're seeing this, hello, it's wonderful to meet you. My name is Grant.
All you need to know is Kelly is just very Italian. That's all you need to know.
It's like an inside joke with playback, and the three of us are in playback, so we just kind of decided to throw that in there.
That's wonderful. I love that to death. I'm also very Italian, so this works out very, very well.
Are you Northern Italian or Southern Italian?
I'm Sicilian. I'm Sicilian and Tuscan, so I'm just kind of chilling out a little bit like in the central areas and a little bit to the south.
Okay. I don't really know what it means. I just know that my grandpa was like really you have to make sure you're making friends with the right Italians. So
you're right, because some of us cry marinara and some of us cry white sauce, and like you can't be friends with the people who cry white sauce. It's just like, it's strange. It's very, very scary.
Ryan, were there any questions for Grant there?
Yeah, we've got a few in here. Mickey asks, how many new Grants does old Grant think he could take in a fight?
Now I've thought about this. Now, no, I haven't.
Something you should know about Ryan is 6'9" and goes to the gym 5 times a week.
Oh yeah, you know me. I gotta.
Man, Ryan, what's it like not being able to fit through doorways?
Oh, it's rough. It's terrible. I wouldn't wish on anyone.
I think new Grant could take on probably, I want to say, like 4, maybe 5 old Grants in a fight.
I'm winning.
Yeah. I think
if there's
winning
5 of you.
If there's 5 of you.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. That's fair.
Yeah, I think it's just because, again, like you said before. I mean, I encompassed inside my body is actually an 8 foot tall, 535-pound man who's just all muscle. So, good luck, man. Yeah, it's really gonna be really hard.
Oh man. Chris is in the chat, genuinely trying to find out what Moby Dick is about.
Oh, okay. So I can give you the full input about that. So, Moby Dick is a story, made by Herman Melville, one of the great American authors, about a ship called the Pequod, captained by Captain Ahab, who is this tyrannical captain who got his leg and his manhood, if you know what I'm talking about, bit off by a great white whale, and he's on a voyage to try and get his revenge. And he kind of assembles this ragtag crew to go ahead and go after him. But they get a prophecy basically saying, like, hey, everyone's going to die if you keep on going. And you better heed this because it's 100% true. And Ahab's like, nope, I don't care. We're going to fight this whale. We're going to die fighting. Like, it's just what's going to happen. And that's what happens, is that everyone dies except for this one guy named Ishmael. And that's where the story picks up. It picks up at the very first line is, call me Ishmael. I know not what happened or how to describe it, but these are my adventures. And it just goes through chronologically how they got involved with the Pequod and what happened during the fight with Moby Dick.
Well, there you go, Chris Turner.
Yeah, they also fought for a championship belt. There was a tables, ladders, and chairs match. It was, oh my God. It was bloodbath, man, bloodbath.
Is there one more question for Grant? Is there any other question for Grant?
We have a question here. James asks, Grant, how are you so beautiful?
How are you going to answer?
I'm going to answer humbly and say I was born like this, and I live every day of my life in the shining light of beauty. It's very hard to not be this attractive at all times. But thank you, James. Thank you. That's very, very kind. Thank you.
I was going to say, Grant, you're like a completely different person. Like from on this Zoom call, like from my memory of you, like you look like a completely different person. Like your hair
looks a lot smaller, shorter.
My hair, or like just who I am?
No, just you in general, because you're in a little box.
Yeah. Oh, here I am, just nice and tight. Yeah. Well, I guess thank you. Like that's kind of cool. The entire point after getting out of college is to go ahead and grow. Mm-hmm. So making sure that everything is nice and good. Also, when you saw me, Ben, like we didn't get to interact that much. The only real memories that I have with you, Ben, is the time that you've wrecked your scooter outside of I can't remember which hall it was, but I remember
Williams Hall.
Yep. I just remember in slow motion in front of God and everything that's holy, I remember running in to get first aid for you because you were bleeding, and I'm like, oh my God, holy crap, I have to help in. And so, dude, like me and like 3 other people from the box office went out to go and try and help you.
I still have a permanent scar on my wrist from it, and I don't think it's ever going away. So that's okay.
Oh man, I'm so sorry, dude. I really am.
It's not big. You can't really see. Like it's only you can't really tell. But I'm like, it's like a memento of like, hey, maybe you should like think before you do things sometimes.
You know what? Maybe wrist pads. You know, helmet.
Oh, that too. I
How about
just
that?
like,
No?
there's just something about the warm weather that like triggers something in me that just makes me like just super like not like my brain goes out the window and I just like want to like just like follow every impulse and do like
Absolutely, dude. Me too. When I lived in Colorado and I'd hike, like go hiking, I'd see like a rock face and be like, I'm gonna climb that right now. And be like, Grant, don't do that. Like it's a bunch of rocks. And it's like I don't give two shits. And I just immediately I would scale it and then I'd get stuck and they have to try and get it.
I wanted to talk to Grant about one last thing. I think it was a few weeks ago now. A new trailer dropped for the sequel to your favorite movie of all time. I wanted to know your thoughts on this trailer and the new movie.
Okay.
I
I'll
love
try
the
and make it
presentation. No.
yeah, you start with the wide shot and a full moon. We yada yada. No, I think I am kind of not looking forward to it. Full disclosure. Main
And this
thing.
is Space Jam 2, by the way.
Yeah, Space Jam 1 is my ride or die. I would do anything for her. She's great. But Space Jam 2, the trailer dropped, and I think everyone's reactions online where it was like, oh, the people from Clockwork Orange are in the background, and like seeing a lot of kind of like weird stuff kind of took me out of it. Especially what took me out of it, and this is like the whole kicker for me, is that it's called Space Jam, right? So why are they going into a computer? There's no space in there. It's a computer. And like that doesn't make any sense to me. So it makes me upset. It's like, oh yeah, it's Space Jam, but it's not really Space Jam. So I'm still gonna go see it, but I might cry the entire time. So.
I'm excited to see you memorize the whole script for that one too.
I'm gonna waste a lot of money, Wes.
He's gonna go 20 times to the theater. I think you could have it in 5, honestly.
With my knowledge of the previous Space Jam, yeah, connecting plots, connecting threads, absolutely.
Well, Grant, it's been nice talking to you again. Unfortunately, like normal Just Skimming the Surface fashion, we are way over time. Not way over time. We're like 8.5 minutes over time.
That's not bad for us. That's not bad.
And we started late, so you know.
Yeah. Well, during the first Skimming the Surface, like you're like, oh, it'll be like 2 hours, and then 3.5 hours later.
It was an incredible 3 hours. I was in the audience, and it was an incredible 3.5 hours. Like
You were there for so long.
But I'm so sorry, Wes. Before we go, can I just tell one story about Just Skimming the Surface? And it's one of my favorite stories I like to tell people about you. Is that when we did our first Just Skimming the Surface, we had Jimmy Krisman come on up as our guest, and we had everybody sing "Happy Birthday" to him. Right? We did it with like we did like blowers and like horns and everything like that, and everyone was like. We threw things at him at the end, and like we're like, "Oh, happy birthday, Jimmy!" And the joke was that it wasn't Jimmy's birthday. I met with him in his office a week later, and I was like, "So, how did you like being a part of the show? Did you have fun?" And he's like, "Yeah. For the most part, it was good." I'm like, "For the most part, what is there something that we did wrong? Did we make you uncomfortable?" And he's like, "Yeah, actually, one of my worst fears in the world is being sung Happy Birthday by a bunch of people." Just like up front in front of everyone, and you put me on the stage and sung Happy Birthday to me, and it makes me feel so uncomfortable. I'm like, oh no,
Jimbo,
I'm so sorry, my man. And he's like, no,
and then next time he was on the show, we made him eat baby food. So we've been well,
it looks like he has a new worst fear. So
yeah, it's really baby food.
Yeah, we didn't sing Happy Birthday a second time, so that's good. That was great.
Thank you very much.
Honestly, I was afraid that this show was going to be like this episode was going to be like, I don't know how to explain it. The Toy Story 4 of Just where it's like, first one's really good. Second one, yeah, that one was good
the
too.
second one was kind of a hot mess, just because
it was like slower and like kind of, yeah.
We ran into a lot of problems.
And then like the third one is like, really good. It's like you got that somber goodbye, and then we're back for a fourth one. It's like, why are they doing this? Like, why are they still here?
Shout out to the 15 people watching. We appreciate you.
Let's go. Thanks, guys.
The video is going to be up on Facebook, and anyone can watch it at any time. And then I'm also taking the audio from it and uploading it to the podcast's RSS feed. So this will be, at least for now, the final Just Skimming the Surface episode, because I've actually started a new project with Jordan Zimmerman, who is also an alum of ISU. We have a new podcast on movies called Freshly Popped Podcast. So you can be sure to check that out on your favorite podcasting platforms. That it was just something Jordan and I like talking about together, is films and TV and entertainment news. So we thought that it'd be fun to just start a podcast on it. So we'll probably have Grant on to talk about Space Jam at some point.
Let's go. Prepare for a 4-hour-long episode.
It'll be our longest episode yet.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Grant. I miss you, and I wish you all the best as we hopefully return to a normal year. And I can't wait to see you on stage again.
Thanks, Wes. Thank you so much for having me. I miss you. I love you. I hope everybody here is doing well. Sorry,
Ben,
Wes.
are you trying to say something?
I was trying to wave, but then my hand kept disappearing. So I was
I
like,
thought he was raising his hand.
He's a phantom. But thank you so much for having me, Wes. It's been so much fun.
Thank you, Grant.
bye, old Grant.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, old
See ya. Bye, ho.
He's still here.
Is he?
I don't know. Did he leave? Oh well. I see non-video participants. So he's trying to make sure we don't talk about him when he leaves. Well, that's about it for Just Skimming the Surface Live 4. What do you, Ben? I see your face.
Ben's trying to plug something real quick.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I co-directed a TYA Theater for Young Audiences show with my roommate Chris Turner, and Ryan is actually part of the cast. And we had a fantastic team of designers come together in a terrific cast. And we're showing the show on Friday and Saturday. Friday at 5 and Saturday at 2. It's an hour-long show. And there's just so many great bits, and there's like a meaningful, and there's like nice touching moments, and there's some great comedy in there. And I think it's a really good project. So and also like shout out to the designers of Lily's Purple Plastic Purse, because they did a fantastic job, and shout out to the cast because they are hilarious.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see it. It's going to be great. And I know, Ryan, you have a show tomorrow as well as part of the Freestage Festival, which we are in. I mentioned Freestage at the beginning, but yeah, Freestage is sponsoring us. This week is Freestage's festival. So this show is part of that festival. Other shows in the festival are the Super Mario musical.
Yeah. One of the students at the school, Zenon, has spent a lot of time writing and conceiving this Mario Bros musical based on, of course, the famous video game. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's just kind of an advanced reading, but it's a ton of fun. So if you are interested, it's tomorrow night at 7:00. And all the information is on the Freestage page.
Yeah, and then other shows in the festival are gender galleries. I believe that happens later in the week as well. They have a Facebook event up for that as well. And an Iliad, which is Nolan's show. Nolan was on the podcast at the start of the pandemic, talking about virtual theater. So he is in a show called The Iliad, directed by Jackson Dillon. And yeah, I believe it's based on the Odyssey, right? I think so. I want to say that's what it is. And I'm excited to see that one too. I think they have another showing this week as well, because we're only on Tuesday, so there's still plenty of festival left. So be sure to check out all the festival shows. If I missed any, I know Freestage has been posting about them, so be sure to check out Freestage's Facebook page for all of those. There's also a puppet show called Puppets in Space, and that sounds like a lot of fun. Who doesn't like puppets and who doesn't like space? So be sure to check out all the rest of the shows in the Freestage Festival. And thank you so much to Freestage for letting us be a part of the festival once again, possibly for the final time. Ooh. And thank you, Ben, for joining me as my co-host once again. Thank you, Ryan, for being our tech crew, I guess you could call it now. You're our little backstage stage crew, just like with our last show. And thank you to Kee-Yoon for coming on as a guest, and Grant for coming on as a guest, and to the Acafellaz for their music video.
And
So
thank you to the
so
runners.
much.
Don't forget the runners. Thank you to the runners.
Oh yeah, thank you to the outdoor joggers for making an
what you do.
appearance on the podcast. I will be sure to reach out for your names so I can put them in the credits.
Yes, very important.
All right, thanks so much, guys. I am starting to totally feel tired from this vaccine, so I think it's about time to log off. Bye. And thank you all to you viewers. Thank you for supporting us.
Thank you.
Have a
Yes.
great night. With that, we're just skimming the surface.
Cue the music.
By Mousepad. That song is by Mousepad. Josh Harris.
And with that, we are just skimming the surface. Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, be sure to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcasting service. Don't forget to like W Skymmilk on Facebook and to check out wskymmilk.com for more about me. This has been Wesley W. Skymmilk Skym. Have a great night.